We're always looking for more time, right? But what if the real problem isn't your to-do lists at all? Today, we're going to move past the simple life hacks and dive into a much deeper, more powerful organizational strategy to truly master our time. Let's get into it.
Oh, this is a feeling I think we all know, right? You start the day with these amazing intentions, but by the end of it, you're just sitting there wondering where all the hours went. But here's the thing, that feeling, it's not some personal failure on your part. It's actually a symptom of something way bigger. Yeah, researchers actually have a name for this. They call it the time famine. And it makes sense, doesn't it? In this always-on, super connected world we live in, that feeling of having way too much to do and just not enough time to do it has kind of become the default for, well, pretty much everyone.
So, when we feel that pressure, what's our first instinct? We reach for the standard toolkit. These are the classic tactical solutions, almost like a first aid kit for our crazy schedules.
And this approach probably looks pretty familiar to you. It usually breaks down into these three classic steps. First, you plan your week, with all those calendar blocks. Then you prioritize your tasks so you know what's actually important. And finally, you try to protect your focus, maybe by batching similar work together.
And a huge part of that is this classic matrix. It's so effective because it forces you to boil everything down to two really simple questions for any task. Is it important and is it urgent? And depending on how you answer, you know exactly what to do. Do it now, schedule it for later, hand it off to someone else, or, maybe the best one, just delete it entirely.
Okay, so all of that brings us to the real mystery here. What you might call the productivity paradox. If we have all these great tools and these proven tactics, why are so many of us still feeling completely buried? Yeah, let's just put that question right out there. Think about it. We have smartphones, all this fancy project management software, instant messaging. We should be the most productive and chilled out generation in history. But the reality feels totally different, doesn't it? So what's the deal? Well, the answer really starts to take shape when you look at this number. It's pretty staggering. Research shows that in a lot of companies, a full 80% of the average workday is just eaten up by what you'd call shallow work. Meetings, phone calls, and that never-ending stream of emails. That leaves a tiny, tiny sliver of our time for the deep, focused work that actually moves the needle. And this leads us to a really important term for what's going on: collaborative overload. It's basically that tipping point where all the tools that are supposed to help us collaborate, the Slack pings, the meeting invites, the constant notifications, they actually start to backfire. They get in the way and prevent us from doing our most important work. Okay, so to really solve this, we've got to go deeper than just tactics. We have to shift our thinking from just managing our own little to-do lists to a much bigger strategy: protecting our collective focus as a team and even as a whole organization. And this right here, this is the core tension of modern work, laid out perfectly. On one side, you've got that deep, focused work. That's where the real innovation happens. But on the other side, there's this constant expectation to be responsive and collaborative. And it's a real balancing act. If you focus too much, you create silos. But if you collaborate too much, well, you get burnout and that collaborative overload we just talked about. So how in the world do you manage that trade-off? Well, one really powerful tool is an old idea called Parkinson's Law. It's the simple but profound idea that work expands to fill the time you give it. So if you give a task a week, it'll take a week. But if you give that same task just one day, chances are it'll get done in a day. And this shows us something crucial. Constraints aren't the enemy here. When you use them on purpose, they actually become an incredible tool to create focus. All right, so let's see how this strategic thinking plays out in the real world. We're going to look at two super different companies, a huge bank and a creative software company, and see how they've each built these unique time cultures to get ahead. So here you have it, a tale of two totally different time cultures. First up, you've got the Royal Bank of Canada. It's a massive, complex system, so for them, efficiency is everything. Their strategy is all about optimizing collaboration to make it work better. But then you have Atlassian, the software company. They need constant innovation to survive, so their strategy is completely different. It's about sparking these creative moments, using intense time constraints, like their famous 24-hour ship-it days, to literally force breakthrough ideas to the surface. So what's the big lesson we can pull from all this? It really all comes down to a whole new mindset for the future of work. And it's a mindset that's centered on this core idea of protecting focus.
And this quote, this just nails the shift in thinking perfectly. See, time management isn't just your personal problem to solve anymore. For anyone in a leadership role, it's now a core part of your job to be a shield, to actively protect your team's time and attention so they can actually do their best work.
So, if you're going to walk away with anything from this, what should it be? It really boils down to these three, what I'd call future-proof principles. Number one, time is an organizational resource, not just a personal one. Number two, a leader's most important job is to protect their team's focus. And number three, and this is a big one, constraints are not a curse. They're a tool you can use to spark creativity.
And believe me, looking to the future, this is only going to become more and more important. Think about it. As generative AI starts automating more and more of that shallow work, drafting emails, summarizing meetings, all that stuff, our uniquely human ability to do deep, focused, creative work, well, that's going to become our single most valuable skill. So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. I want you to forget your entire mile-long to-do list for just a second. Just pick one single important goal. Now ask yourself, what could you unlock for your career, for your studies, for yourself, if you had just one protected, truly focused hour every single day?